Hello guys! Today is another day for a good gameplay, so we will be playing the tour around the zone and on a different map. So if you don't know it, tour around the zone is a very different mode than, for example, the free play. The free play is a mode where you decide about how you play. For example, the base, where do you land, which map do you choose, etc. But still you play Chernobylite. But here, in the tour around the zone, the experience is different. Here, it's focused only on exploration and learning about the zone, the Chernobyl disaster, and even the aftermath of the disaster. So last time we were in here, the cooling towers, so that's a fairly new map. And this mode, as well as this map, is available from Season 4. And Season 4 mark the Chernobylite Complete Edition. And Complete Edition means simply that every single piece of content we planned, we already released. Even if you play on consoles, on Xbox, on PS, this doesn't matter. You can download the update for free for every single console version there is. So today I think we will choose... We were here. The residential area, I like it, but maybe not today. The Red Forest, Pripyat Port and Moscow Eye were covered on our channel recently, so I don't suppose it will be a good idea. Let's, well, give it a week or two, just to, you know, lay down for a second and rest. Okay, so it's decided. So today we will be going to the Pripyat Central Map. I think I still have some interesting trivia and comments to give you, so I think you will, well, I hope you will enjoy this video and our gameplay. And if you will have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. Doesn't matter if about the versions, the complete edition, our game overall, or anything at all. Feel free to explore, yeah, and feel free to comment and ask anything. So this is one of my favorite maps because it has so much on it. It has energetic palace of culture, so buildings that Soviet people really liked. They built it, I don't remember, in thousands. Here is the Hotel Palacia, here is the iconic phone booth, and here is the residential, a part of residential area. Well, this is an apartment building. One of many in Pripyat, but this is also a legendary spot in the exclusion zone partially because of this phone booth. And everything you see in here, every sign, every building, every structure, every, I know, machinery, etc., it was basically manually scanned by us in the zone. And of course there were some additions, there were some adjustments that we had to make due to the gameplay reasons. But on the other hand, it was just adjusted, not created from scratch. Like, it was created from scratch, but from our models that we scanned in the zone. So then our 3D modelists had to, you know, work on it and implement it into the game. Here is the note, and the note is one of these question marks. These question marks are sometimes notes, sometimes scientists, and the notes are basically, well, you just interact with them and you can read what they say, and the scientists will tell you more about it. They are NPCs. So we have the first note. Prior to the disaster, the residents of Pripyat owned 2,000 cars and 1,300 motorcycles. While some were driven out of the city, the majority were abandoned or buried in designated areas. However, the burial sites were not deep enough, and thanks to the theft on the elements, some of the vehicles have been revealed. This area came to be known as the Field of Miracles, because cars appeared to miraculously grow from the soil. Yeah, the evacuation was pretty terrible, because a lot of personal belongings were left. Like, I don't know if now it's also the case, but years ago you could just go into the zone, go into the building, if you could go inside. And you could find basically photos like pajamas, boots, and everything that was left like it was standing. Of course, a lot of these places were looted, unfortunately, even sometimes by the original owners, or somebody that was working for them, or soldiers or liquidators who who exchanged the belongings for the moonshine. Yep. That was quite stereotypical for the Russian soldiers to, barter with vodka and moonshine, but actually that was the case in this particular moment and the place. So here's another note. Robots played a crucial role in the Chernobyl cleanup because radiation levels made conditions difficult or impossible for humans. 15 different types of modular robots were used for tasks ranging from reconnaissance to decontamination. Popular robots included Clean One, STR-1 and Mobot HHV. Some, such as the amphibious bulldozer Komatsu, were not suited for the harsh conditions. Visitors can see real robots used in the cleanup at a special exposition platform near Chernobyl. And if I remember correctly, I don't know about the other models, I don't remember, but if I remember correctly, the STR-1 was a moon rover. So, yeah, that's interesting that moon rovers and the race to the stars, the Star Wars, as I think Reagan called it, helped to clean up the worst human-made disaster. Well, nuclear disaster, at least. Ah, here it is. The first scientists we encounter. Just give me some trivia about it.
Did you know that more than 600,000 people were involved in the liquidation effort in the aftermath of the Chernobyl disaster? An extensive cleanup operation was carried out to control the release of radioactive materials and contain the spread of radioactive contamination. The effort involved hundreds of thousands of workers, referred to as liquidators, who cleaned up the area around the damaged reactor. They also built a sarcophagus around the reactor to contain the remaining radioactive materials.
Yeah, the first sarcophagus, called often the Ark or Arka, it was covered by the second one, finished in 2016. So the second sarcophagus. Or is the second one called Ark? Sorry, I don't remember now.
Removing debris and radioactive material. This involved cleaning up the area around the damaged reactor and decontaminating buildings, roads, and other structures. The liquidators were also involved in the construction of a massive concrete sarcophagus designed to contain the remaining radioactive materials. They worked to decontaminate the evacuated areas around the power plant and to make them safe for resettlement. During a later stage, liquidators decommissioned the damaged reactor, including the removal of damaged fuel rods and the sealing of the reactor core. They continued to be involved in monitoring and maintaining the containment of radioactive materials at the site. This included the sarcophagus and the spent fuel storage facilities. The liquidators also assisted in the evacuation of over 100,000 people from the surrounding area and the relocation of affected populations.
Yeah, so basically you could hear that in Pripyat there was 50,000 people, and that's correct, about 50,000 people, but the evacuation took place on a much larger area, so all of the villages, towns, settlements around the exclusion zone were evacuated too, so this sums up to about 100,000 people evacuated, and they were never told that probably they will never be allowed to get back. So what risks did the liquidators face?
The over 600,000 liquidators faced significant health risks due to exposure to high levels of radiation.
And here is a small comment, sorry for pausing, but the 600,000 liquidators is one of the estimations. They most often use this one, but some estimations will count the liquidators and the people affected by the Chernobyl disaster up to 1,000,000, 800,000, 900,000, 5, 6, 7, something like this, because the USSR didn't have any official records.
Many of them have since suffered from a range of health problems, including increased rates of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and other illnesses. In addition, many have also reported mental health problems, such as anxiety and depression.
Yeah, and that's the other side of the disaster. We often think of immediate casualties and people that were immediately affected by the disaster, but the things they had to do, the things they saw, the things they went through, including medical conditions, were often leaving scars, and people were not having a good psychiatric healthcare, so they didn't receive any psychiatric help afterwards. So a lot of people were fighting their own demons.
The government of the Soviet Union provided some compensation and medical support to the liquidators. However, the exact extent of the health impacts and the number of deaths related to the disaster is still unclear. The Chernobyl disaster's impact on the health of the liquidators continues to be a source of concern and the subject of ongoing study.
That's the second thing. They didn't have records also about the immediate Chernobyl disaster victims. For example, we don't know the precise number of people affected by the Chernobyl disaster, but for example not living near the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. So they often were not counted in these estimations. Well, of course, the USSR tried to cover it up first. Well, then they said that, oh yes, there was a disaster, but we have it under control, etc., etc. But overall, there was a huge fear, not only in the USSR and the Warsaw Pact countries, but also in the NATO countries and other countries surrounding the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, like Sweden, Germany, Poland. They often tried to, manage the negative public outcome of it, so they didn't assess how many people were actually harmed by the disaster, and often they were told by doctors that they have something called radiophobia because they feared it so much, and they were sent home.
The Palacia Hotel was built in the 1970s to accommodate party officials and guests visiting the nuclear power plant. After the Chernobyl disaster, Pripyat was evacuated and the hotel abandoned. Today, the Palacia Hotel is one of many abandoned structures in the exclusion zone and a popular destination for tourists exploring this ghost town.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the first teams from the Moscow governments and even the local ones were actually staying in Palacia Hotel because it was basically the city center and it was like the best accommodation in the area, so that was like a quite, maybe not logical, but quite normal to use this place. Not to mention the radiation that was still covering this place, and the people that were living here during the immediate post-disaster moments were also irradiated much.
The hotel was used as headquarters for the liquidators and their operations. Spotters used the roof to coordinate helicopters dumping sand and boric acid and directed machines into the exposed reactor core. Rumor has it that Gorbachev stayed at the hotel once when he came to check on the progress of the liquidation.
Rumors, but it was never confirmed, as far as I know, at least. But the hotel was one of the highest buildings in whole Pripyat, so it was fairly logical to use it as a spotting place.
The hotel is located on Lenin Square and used to be part of a complex that included the hotel, the Palace of Culture Energetic, a department store, and a diner. There were also plans for a cafe on the top floor of the hotel, but it never opened.
Similar as the amusement park. It was never opened because it was scheduled, if I remember correctly, for the 1st of May 1986, so a few days after the disaster happened. The 1st May was like a huge USSR-wide, and not only, also in some of the Warsaw Pact countries, it was a bank holiday, I think that's what it's called, and it was a Labor's Day, if I remember correctly.
The Palacia is where Valery Legasov, a scientist renowned for his portrayal in the HBO series, stayed during his first days on site after the Chernobyl disaster.
Okay, thank you, guy, Mr. Scientist. I don't know why, but if I call him a Mr. Scientist, immediately I have like Randy Marsh from South Park connotations, like Mr. Scientist. I don't know why, sorry. I think I saw too much South Park. Okay, so here's another note. On April 26, 86, the militarized fire department in Chernobyl received a report of a fire. Within 10 minutes, firefighters arrived from Pripyat HPV-6, equipped with only basic gear. And that's true, we covered it on our mini-series People of Chernobyl and Chernobyl Firefighters. So if you're interested in this subject, you can always watch them. By 4 AM, the fire on the machine hall roof was under control, but all 10 HPV-6 firefighters tragically lost their lives due to radiation exposure. Their bravery prevented the fire from spreading to the third power unit, although no one realized the extent of the accident or radiation at the time. And that's also important because they were completely not prepared for the disaster of such magnitude. They were just using basic firefighter gear, no protection equipment against the radiation. And despite this, they fought bravely and they put off the fires on the roof number 3, so the roof of the Unit 3. And the Unit 3 was a sibling, is still a sibling unit to Unit 4, which exploded, or which was destroyed, depending on how you call it. And there was like a real danger that due to those fires, they could spread more, especially because of the winds at the moment. And if they did, it was a huge possibility, maybe not possibility, but it was a huge, we're concerned that they would destroy the whole Unit 3, and that would be another disaster. So another reactor that could at least stop working, and they couldn't allow to do that because at least at the moment they didn't know it. They were thinking that Unit 4 had some malfunction or anything else, and they wanted to still produce power because power was extremely important in the late 80s for the USSR. Foxes are among the many wild animals that began repopulating the zone when the humans left. In addition to hunting for food, they became adept at begging for tourists. Yeah, that's true. We encountered maybe even the same fox at least twice during our trips to Chernobyl. One such fox even has his own Facebook page. His name is Semyon, and you can meet him in various places around the zone. I think that we planned to make Igor, to make possible for Igor to pet him, or pet any fox that would be encountered in the zone. Okay, so we have this one. Maybe let's try this one. Every detail, every single detail was scanned manually. Or, you know what? We will keep the question mark for a second from now, but let's head up. I don't know if I want to take the stairs. I will be lazy today. There should be some music playing like na 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 na. And you could see why they used the hotel for a spotting place. Of course, I don't remember, I think it's the highest building in the zone, at least in Pripyat, but here is one of the top floors, and you could see whole Lenin Square, or Central Square, however you call it. Here is the Energetic. You could see somewhere here the Ferris wheel, so part of the amusement park. It's behind the Energetic, the Palace of Culture Energetic. And there are these buildings that have the huge red stars on them, so the people wouldn't forget who the city belonged to. Okay, running downstairs is always easier. So yeah, it's interesting that we have been in places where the famous people were also present, living, staying, I don't know, sleeping. Liquidators, the scientists. If you watch the HBO miniseries, especially on our channel where we point out differences between the real Chernobyl and the HBO miniseries, you would know that, for example, Uliana Homyuk, presented in HBO series, is a personification of many other scientists that helped Valery Legasov and others during the post-disaster cleanup. And they stayed also in here. So this is the Lenin Square, and of course this is taken strictly from the game, because maybe at some moment it looked similarly, but this is like the sci-fi side of the Chernobylite. And there was no military base like this during any moment in the disaster, during the disaster cleanup. Here is another scientist. So we are at the entrance of the energetic Palace of Culture, and what you will have to say, Mr. Scientist?
The Palace of Culture Energetic was the cultural center of Pripyat. It was built in the 1970s and is one of the largest structures in the city. It was a locus of cultural, educational, and sporting events.
Yeah, that was actually one of the first buildings, because remember that Pripyat was built from the scratch. Sorry for stopping again, but I wanted to comment on that. And the Palaces of Culture, were actually pretty popular in the USSR, and they were aimed to be like the centers of cultural life. And not only also sports life, etc., for the local citizens.
After the Chernobyl disaster, the building was abandoned along with the rest of the city, but its ruin remains there to this day.
So what is the origin?
Energetic was a play on words referencing both the power plant worker and the positive energy of the Pripyat community.
It was an official name of this place. Even the sign on the top of the building says energetic. And that was a play on words, but still, it's kind of funny that they made it officially the name.
In 1988, the Soviet Union had over 137,000 palaces of culture. They were large community centers established during the Soviet era.
I could quote a famous Polish comedy movie right here, but I won't, because it's a... it wouldn't go through the censorship of YouTube. If you're Polish, you know the movie Killer, and you know what Shara said.
The Palace of Culture Energetic hosted discos every weekend. These events were named Edison II, after the electronic music equipment. They were very popular among the residents of Pripyat. After the disaster, the Energetic was used as a technical building for the Liquidators.
Okay. So we have a few more question marks here, but I don't suppose I will show them, because I really want you to discover the place by your own. Of course, the monsters, etc. are not typically found in the exclusion zone, the real one. But still, nonetheless, it's fun to just go around and explore, because every detail of these structures and these buildings and everything, maybe not the military crates, but most of the equipment here and the structures are literally almost one-to-one made from the real Chernobyl Exclusion Zone into the 3D models that we created by manually scanning and then modeling it and put it inside the game. So a lot of work, guys, but Chernobylite took quite a few years to work on. And just now, 3 years post the official premiere on PC, it's finally the moment where we have the complete edition, including the mode that we are playing right now, Tour Around the Zone. Here's the amusement park. Some sources say that it was shortly opened for the public, just moments post the disaster, for the people, like to boost the morale of the people, but then again the evacuation was also taking place, I think a day or 2 days after the disaster, 27 or 28 April 1986. So if that would be correct, first of all there should be some information, some records on it, but personally I don't believe it. I mean, it could be like logical for the USSR to just say, you know, just go play around, nothing to worry about, but I think the day after the disaster they already knew that maybe they didn't know the exact scale of this whole accident, but I'm pretty much sure that they at least expected that this would be much worse than they anticipated in the first moments. So guys, I don't want to spoil you everything, there are another question marks on the map. So remember, if you have any questions about the game, about the Chernobyl, about our trips to Chernobyl Exclusion Zone, about our work like scanning or how we produce the game, just feel free to ask. I will happily answer all the comments in the best way I can. So, I think that's it for today, guys. I hope you had a good time watching this, and I hope that I at least made you slightly wanting to go into the Chernobylite game and, you know, check it for yourselves. There's a lot of detail to just admire. I really like this mode because I can wander around, peacefully take a really good look at details made in our game. So that's it for today, guys. Take care, stay safe, and see you on Sunday when we will publish the regular episode. See you soon, guys.